Good morning, everybody. Today is February 28th. Holy cow, the last day of the month, second month of the year already. It's a blur. My name is Marty Forrest. My website is helloextraordinarylife.com. Check out the page. There's on the landing page, there's a free offer of 3 steps to reprogramming your negative self-talk. If you haven't seen that yet, check that out. It's a little 4-page guide to take some action and learn how to do that. There's lots of other stuff on the site. All these calls are recorded, so if you missed it, I send it out on Facebook, and it's recorded, and I put it on the website also under Insider Calls. I haven't found a better name for that yet. If y'all come up with something better, my coach calls his the University. Good morning.
Good morning. Hi, it's Stacy.
Hi, Stacy.
Hey, how are you?
Just got started, so we're recording already, so thank you for joining. I'm glad you could make it. Anyway, I was talking about the recordings on the website, and if you have a different name, Insider Calls was, I had an idea behind that, but it's, I don't know, not very inspiring to me, so I'd like it to be something else. My coach calls his University, where he puts all of his calls, and I don't want to take his name. I'm not sure it really applies to what we do, but anyway, if y'all have any suggestions, I would appreciate that. Today, our topic is, what did I tell you? I took it off the page. Are you an opportunist or a complainer? And I'm going to share a short little story, because I was on a call with someone yesterday morning. I have a weekly call with her, and I find myself often dreading those calls because I hang up and I'm like, ugh, it's exhausting, because all it is complaining. I didn't sleep good. I worried about this. I'm worried about that. My computer doesn't work. It's just constant complaining. And I called it out yesterday, and I've called it out before. And I looked it up. I went up because I've known that things happen in the brain when we get into that negative pattern, the neural pathways in our brain. There are still ruts on the planet in the United States from where the wagons came across during that time when they were trekking across the United States to buy new land. And those ruts that get created in the mud, they still find them. They still exist because they get hardened. And, well, that happens in our brain. That's what happens in our brain when we are, whether we're complaining or we're positive, negative or positive. It's those pathways get created. Since we are wired for survival, long ago, hunting, and our survival depended on whether we found food or not, we're wired. We're wired for the survival, the fight or flight. That's our brain mechanism is wired for that. And there are certain things that we do today, even though we don't have that same threat, our brain doesn't really know that because of however we've been raised. And if our parents came out of the Depression or our grandparents came out of the Depression and they were all about survival and you just suck it up and you just do it, and now seem to be this generation of, can be, not everybody is, but can be that negative, complaining kind of person. Well, it reinforces in the brain those thought patterns, those neural pathways. And then it creates the ruts, like those wagon wheels, neural pathways. They get reinforced. Then anything perceived or imagined, whether it's real or not, will trigger the same mechanism in our brain. And we automatically go there. Y'all relate to that? Yep. Some of and I look at it and I go, well, it's become a habit. So how do we begin to change that? That was a habit for me too. I was criticized growing up. That was the main thing. No matter what I did right or good, the thing I did or didn't do that wasn't quite up to par was the only thing that was picked out. So I constantly had that reinforced. Therefore, that's how I lived in my early relationships, criticizing and complaining, and I didn't know how to do anything different. And I also didn't know that it was how my brain was wired. My parents were attempting to teach me that you do the whole job. You don't do half-ass stuff. I can look back today and go, that was never their intention to create a complaining, criticizing person that felt like I was never good enough. That was not their intent. Their intent was to help me be a better human being. But in the brain circuitry, it doesn't go that way. It doesn't get wired that way. Some people, I've seen some do the complete opposite, which is quite fascinating to me. They realize that however they were raised didn't really work, and they do the opposite. I have no idea how that happens, but for me, that wasn't my experience. So, what do we do to make that different when it's the synapses are getting fired? And then we have our words that we use. What are some of the words that we use every day that will trigger us to get into that worry place or complaining place? Anybody have any thoughts or ideas what those are?
Personally, I quit using the word hard or impossible, and I changed it to challenging, sometimes maybe difficult, but just the real negative words that almost set you up for failure in the beginning. I try to change those to more positive, lesson learning words, if that makes sense.
Yes. Great example. There was something I've heard several times now. It was just one example, was when we say we're scared or we're nervous, the chemistry that gets reacted in our body is the same chemistry as if we say we're excited. The body chemistry and reaction, the physiology of it is the same. The physiology of you saying challenging or some other choice word instead of hard or difficult creates the same reaction in our body. What gets different, what happens differently in our brain is we get safe words. So when I say I'm excited, my brain then says, oh, okay, we're safe now. She's just excited about it. Things like need, have to, or I'm worried about this thing, or I'm worried about this thing that's going to happen next year. I have a client who will do that. Oh, it just makes me worry. And it's not even about her. Maybe about her family, or maybe about something she saw on the news, but she's always worried, which keeps the brain in a continual stressful state, always on guard, always ready to react, fight or flight, fight or appease. When we choose different words, this is a simple practice, not always easy to remember, but this is one simple thing that I've done is change some of the wording I use. Do the other words still show up? Of course they do. But I've changed the word to be excited instead of I'm nervous or scared. There are challenges in life instead of it's hard. I don't need, we put our self-imposed pressure on ourselves with need. I need, have to, I get to. So really listening, really being mindful of our word choices will trigger the brain to recognize that I'm safe versus I must always be on. Then our levels, or the chemistry levels in our body, the cortisol, the dopamine, all those chemicals that get released when we're stressed, the stress hormones, they're the same hormones, but they get, when we're safe, our brain goes, oh, okay, we're safe. I'm responding instead of reacting. Then the chemicals in our body start coming down. and we actually come off that ledge. Same thing happens when we're complaining. So when we're complaining, we trigger the same, I'm not safe, I must react, I'm in fear, something's always wrong. When we can shift that, first of all, same thing, be mindful of what you're about to say. Pause before you say it. Think about it before you say it. I do a lot of pausing. And sometimes I don't know what else to say, so I say nothing. But I've been diligent about word choices. I think Lisa's pointed out, Marty, you pause a lot. My coach even pointed out, I'll say, how are you? And I pause because I'm really thinking about what do I want to say. Am I going to complain about something, or am I going to look at my life and go, no matter what's going on in my life, it's really good. Maybe I don't like that circumstance over there. So the mechanics of it, being mindful and pausing, breathing. Sometimes if you pray, say a prayer. Okay, Spirit, what do I say instead? Because it's reprogramming, right? So when we pause, we stop that cycle because we're not just blah, verbalizing without thinking because it's habit, right? Now we're being conscious and we're pausing and we're breathing. What can I say instead? What can I say that's lighter and positive versus negative, complaining, bitching?
Well, one thing
and there are just maybe you come up with, pardon me?
One thing I've been trying to practice is just saying thank you for this opportunity. Whatever's going on, because I keep being given opportunities each day, and it may not be the way I want it, but it's another opportunity for me to grow. So I've been really focusing on that lately.
I like it. I like it. What's the opportunity? Because life is always presenting opportunities. And the more we begin to alter our language and our thoughts, because they always come first. The thoughts always come first, right? And then we're speaking them. If we can filter, I call it censorship, because sometimes if I'm going to say it, there's not much of a filter, but how I say it's going to be different. So sometimes I need to censor it, because how I'm going to say it's not going to be very nice or positive, or I'm going to be complaining, or it's going to be a negative. Have you ever tried eliminating the word not out of your vocabulary? I have not been successful yet. It's just one of those words, and I think, how can I say it different? Because when I say it different, it puts a positive or an opportunity or a lighter way of speaking versus I don't want to do that. Right? What do I want then? I've been practicing this a long time, and it's still, that's just one word that it's still there. It's better. So I do a lot of pausing. And sometimes I have to go find things, other words. If we look at our column of what we're familiar with, and what we know, what we're complaining about, what's negative, and then maybe we write the words that are opposite or lighter or more opportunistic, because then we can use them. But if I don't even know what they are yet, that's where I pause or I censor and don't say anything at all, because I'm not sure how to say it different than I would do to criticize or complain. And that's just a practice. That's just been a practice for me. Sometimes writing it down is helpful. I write it out. Then I can look at what it is that I would normally want to say and how would I say it different. Because there's things that will mean the same, but they land a whole lot different based on how we use our words. The meaning might be totally the same, but the energy behind it is going to be different. Do I want to add light and love energy to the world, or do I want to add negative complaining energy to the world? And that's sometimes where I stand in, and I sit in my brain and go, how is that going to land in this? That's the energy I'm putting out in my space, where I'm putting my focus. Everything is an opportunity. Everything is an opportunity to grow, to learn something. If I can't find something good that I want to say, how can I find something that's good about looking out my window? I was watching the birds. That's what I wrote about. I was watching the birds. I don't care that it's raining. They just shake off the rain and come and eat the hummingbird feeder. Or they eat in the grass because the rain brings up all kinds of good food, and Lou has just mowed, so there's all kinds of other seeds. And then tomorrow when the puddles are there, they're in the puddles, feeding themselves. Complete opportunists. They're not worried about where their next meal is going to come from. They're just doing what's right in front of them. The rain doesn't matter. And when I think of that, I think of our life situations. What's the opportunity? I like that question, Lisa. That's a good question. What's my opportunity here? And I will stop there. What did you get? What are you taking away? What are you going to implement?
There was one thing that was given to me early on when I first started hanging around with other people. This one lady, she said, for every negative that I talked to myself, that I had to sit down and put 7 positives. And what that did was it helped me to retrain my brain. So let me tell you, when you start talking negatively to yourself and then you got to write 7 positives, it gets tedious. And it became challenging to find all these. So it really, really, really stuck with me, and that was 12 years ago. And I still think about that today. When you were talking, it's like for every negative I say to myself, I have to provide 7 positives to retrain the brain.
Yes.
I like that.
Yes. I love that. That's awesome. I was asking the person yesterday on the phone, what's good about your life? And, I have a ton of things. Took her almost a minute to be able to verbalize it. It's powerful. It's powerful when we start to shift because we're so conditioned and programmed with how it is. The undoing and reprogramming, it's just a practice. Like learning to walk. How many times do we fall down before we actually learn to walk? And sometimes even today we still fall down. Lose our balance. Right?
Yep. Another thing you just triggered in me is what I haven't been doing, and I just wrote it down, is my daily gratitude list in the morning to help set the tone.
Absolutely. I love gratitude journals. I was clearing out my office, and I found like 5 or 6 all gratitude journals. I haven't been consistent every day, but there were a number of years that I've written gratitude journals. Yep. It's an amazing practice. What helped me in the gratitude journal was the I'm going to take that word out, was the write the gratitude and the why I'm grateful for it. That dropped me from my head into my heart when I wrote the why. Today I can look at my life and I'm grateful for all kinds of things. When I talk about why I'm grateful for them, it shifts me out of my head. Any other comments?
I was noticing the chemistry change last night. Someone made my mom made a statement about our coming up move, like what's going to happen if we can't find something there to rent. And then she went to bed an hour later, and it's like something just set off in my brain, and I started panicking.
Yes.
And next thing I know, I'm on my iPad trying to find rentals in Prescott, Arizona already, and I was up till like 1 o'clock in the morning. And it's like, what is this rush going on? The adrenaline was there, and I was wide awake, and I'm usually asleep. And it's like, what is going on here?
Yes.
And it was crazy how just one thought set me off like that. And it wasn't even valid, you know?
The future tripping, and it's that, it's that worry. It's that fight or flight. Like, oh, my gosh, fear just kicks in. Now I must find an answer. And I can't rest until I find an answer. And then it's never enough or never the right thing. Or, just the whole sequence gets set off.
But I was able to see what was going on.
That's pretty amazing when you can see it. I woke up this morning. Buddy got me up early, and then I didn't really go back to sleep. And the fear kicked in about leaving Modesto next week. It's my last week there. Mm-hmm. And that fear kicked in. Oh, my God, can I really do this? And there's that, can I really do this? And that's my cue that, I don't have to do this by myself. Mm-hmm. This time I visualized like I'm flying. I'm just flying. I'm flying higher, and which leads to success in my brain. And I was able to let that go in a few minutes rather than staying with it till I got out of bed. But pay attention to what happens in your body. Like you were just saying, when I get that fear going on, I get hot immediately, my breathing gets shallow, and my heart rate goes up instantly.
Yep.
When I change the language in my brain or I visualize something else, creating that difference in my brain, all that stuff goes down. That's the safety, creating that safe space in the mind. Anything else before we depart for our day? Thank you for joining me.
Oh, thank you.
I love these calls. And if you ever have a topic that you want to talk about, let me know. I'm happy to talk about that stuff because it's all about that, loving ourselves from the inside out. All of it. Leads right back to that.
Okay, thanks, sis. Perfect.
Have an amazing day.
You too.
And
see you soon.
Hear you all next week or talk to you before that.